Hi, my name is Dave Milton and today we'll be looking at how to set the SimStep up and how to run the software. So today we'll be looking at the software that comes with the SimStep when you get it and how to set it up. We'll be looking at the connections on the back and how to run an encoded motor. So this is the SimStep controller, which is a single axis unit. It just simply has a on switch on the front, and then on the back you have the connections, which we'll go into a bit later. So let's take a close look at the back of the unit. On the unit you can see here we have the limits. So if you've got limit switches which are up and lower, you can plug those in here. If you don't have limits, you need to put a terminator on here because the controller runs with the normally closed switches. We have encoder here, so this unit comes as standard with encoder option or non-encoded. You just have to change the switching inside. An I/O input. Down here we have the RS232, which is an in and an out. Again, if you link these together, you need to put a terminator on the end of the very last unit so it knows it's got to the end. And then we have the jog here, which you have a jog connection and also the jog link wires go into here between the units. We'll look at the connections now on the back of the SimStep. If you buy this with a manipulator, the unit will be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and the cables will also be numbered so you know which ones to plug into which. So the first one we'll look at here, which is the encoder cable. The encoder plugs into here. If you haven't got an encoder, that's fine, you can just leave it out. The encoder settings are actually set by the computer inside, so this is done in the software. Next one we'll look at, which is the limit switch. The limit switch goes into here. If you haven't got limits, you must use a terminator on this. The terminator just has 4 of the pins linked out because the unit runs normally closed, so you need to plug this into the unit so the controller will run. The next one we have, which is the chunky one, which is to do with the motor, which plugs in here. So this is a large motor cable and just clips down. At the bottom here, if you run it into a computer, you have the RS232 connection and the link out to the next units. And we also have the jog box here, which connects into the units. So if you've got more than one unit running jogs, then you need to link between each unit. We'll look at the cables on the back in a moment, but we'll just switch the SimStep on now. Everything's connected. So we'll put the on button, wait for the status. Status shows a line. We know that it's all powered and ready to run. Here's the SimStep set up with all the cables connected now. As you see, there's no RS232 connected into this. We're going to be running it by the jog box. So all the cables connected, you've got your motor lead, your encoder and also your limits. One very important thing to remember about this is never unplug the motor while it's powered. You can damage the unit. Also, these motors do run quite hot, so that's a question we get, so don't be concerned, these do run hot to touch. So this is set up now, it's switched on, so I can literally run the motor straight from the jog box. The SimStep is now powered on. We've connected this via an RS232. The terminator is fitted and this goes to the laptop by a USB connection in this case. We'll just take a closer look at the encoder now. As we've mentioned, if you buy this unit fully configured with a manipulator or a drive, it will come ready to use out of the box. However, should you buy the unit or you want to change it later, then there are a few commands you have to put into the unit software. When you buy these units just as a standalone unit as it is here, this will come as an open loop circuit, which means it will not run an encoder. For this, the internal software is set to 1CM11. However, on this particular motor we've got now, it has an encoder. So for the encoder, you need to set the software to 1cm14. Also, notice here that the setting for the encoder is 1 to 1. This will need to be changed. So the first thing we do is put in the 1cm14, and the next thing we have to do is change the encoder ratio. Now this particular encoder does 2000 line counts, where the motor does 400. So there's a ratio there of 1 to 5. But you have to put a minus in front of the 1, so it's -1/5. So here we'll enter 1ER -1/5, enter. Now we'll just check those commands have gone in. And up here now you can see it's set to closed loop, and you can see that the encoder ratio is now -1/5. So have a look at setting the speed now, because as you can see on here, the jog is probably a bit too quick and the fast may be far too quick, but the limits still operate. So what we'll do now, we'll slow these down. So first of all, we'll slow down. In here you can see you have the jog speed, which is 1000, and the fast jog speed, which is 5000. So we'll change those. So first of all, we'll do the fast, which is 1SF, and we'll put in 1000. And the next one we'll do the slow, which is 1SJ, and we'll put in 100. And just to check that, we'll go 1QA. And you can see now that's changed to 100, and that's 1000. So now when we run the jog, this program now you can run sequences, but what we'll do just to show how this works, we're just putting the speed command. So I go 1CV 2000, enter, and the motor runs. To stop the motor, I simply press escape. There's also some very simple software in here. In the bottom of the screen here, you have monitor. If you click onto this, this opens the screen which gives you positions. So you can simply just click on a movement, and it will continue till it gets to that point. Once you're there, you can return. In the lower box, you've got a command here, so you can move relative 1000, and it will stop when it gets there. Move relative, and this will continue until it gets to that position. That's a rather large number, so we will stop this. Also, when it's running, there's a couple of indicators here which are for the limits. We'll just show those working. Limit activated. Once you put all your settings in, you obviously want to keep these. If you turn the controller off, all these will be lost. So what you have to do for each axis is go 1BA, which is backup all. This will save all your settings to the software, so once you switch the unit off and back on again, they will still be there. Just to clarify that if you buy this unit by itself, the unit comes with a power lead. It also comes with the RS232 connection lead between units, and you also get a default with this. This is standard in the box. When you buy the SimStep with a driver manipulator, it comes fully configured. But what I'm going to do here is just show you how and where the switches are inside, so should you want to split this out once you've done your experiment or whatever, you can. So we just remove the lid, which is held on by a few screws, and the switching we need to be looking at is the switching. You see there's two sets of switches here. It's the lower one which sets the amperage. We always usually leave these set to 3.5 for most of ours, so you probably won't need to touch that again. The switching that will be important to you is if you've got this, say, set up for 5 units, it's these switches here. Well, they're just turn dials, and you can see at the moment this one's set to 1, so this is for unit 1. If this was 2, 3 or 4, then you would count round for each unit. If you've got 10 or more, then for instance, say you had 10, this would be set at 1 and this would be set at 0. There is one more setting that we need to be aware of when we're using the jog box. This setting is found under the rear panel by removing the 4 screws, and it's this turn dial here. The turn dial here is marked 1 to 9, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15 are represented by letters, which is A, B, C, D, E, F respectively. If you've got the single or dual axis jog, then that's fine, because on those it just has a switch which is either 1 or 2 axis. So once you've set your axis in your controller, then that will be fine. However, if you're using the multi-axis, then you have to set the axis of the SimStep to the axis of the multi-axis jog box, which is set by this. So if this is unit 1, then you'd set this to 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. So with this you can connect up to 15 SimSteps together and run them by the multi-axis jog box. Today we looked at the SimStep and how to set it up and how to run a motor. So I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.